Yo guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are doing fantastic as usual. So we're back here with our beloved to-do application that we are creating together. And in this video I think we will be adding some more functionality to our application. So the last few episodes have been a bit about styling, and of course styling is fun, but the styling has to end somewhere, and I think it already looks, adequately good. I think it looks pretty okay. I think we should be focusing a bit more on functionality now and maybe think a bit about the design at a later stage. So it's just good to get something going, have some kind of idea about the design, but not spend way too much time on the design and never get anything actually working. So of course, if you are kind of visual like me, then creating a nice design is of course really nice and motivating, but then if you don't have any functionality, then that could also be demotivating if everything just doesn't work as you would expect it to work. So I think in this video we will add some ways to categorize different tasks. So we currently have no way to really categorize them or do anything like that. So here we have our nice UI, we can edit them. There's nothing here, there's just a title, and that is kind of boring. We really want to utilize our nice edit task modal here and add some more options. So I'm not really sure about you guys. Maybe we should search the web a bit for some inspiration about what we want in our to-do application. So you probably already have loads and loads of ideas, but currently I am a bit, I kind of want it to be minimalistic, but at the same time it would be kind of nice to add some different features that maybe I didn't think of. So you might already have some inspiration from a to-do application that you are using personally. But so I think we should Google a bit and see if there's anything cool that we could maybe add to our application. But like I said, I think we want to categorize them in some way. So add a way to, give them a category, maybe, different categories to our task here. That could be nice. And maybe we could sort them or something based on category. So we could sort them into different lists based on what kind of category we have or something cool like that. And then I also think we should add something like drag and drop if we want to change the order of them. So here it also gets interesting when it comes to drag and drop, because currently we already kind of have an ordering. So now when we complete a task, we actually added this nice, different list here where we put them here instead of, we separate them. So we have two lists here. We have two loops here. Well, we have, really 4 loops, but, we have 2 lists. That is the kind of point I'm trying to make here. So maybe then it would be kind of weird if we are going to sort them here, So only really the active tasks are what we want to sort. So, this kind of adds a lot of complexity to our application, but the drag and drop thing is actually really easy because there's a really neat library in Svelte that really solves this beautifully. Of course, it's Svelte. So when it comes to Svelte, I think as Svelte is so easy to work with, we also get some really nice libraries that are also easy to work with. So if the language is really complicated, maybe you will also find a lot of complicated languages. I guess that is kind of obvious, but we are going to look at that also and implement, I guess, some drag and drop functionality real quick. So yeah, let's just add some functionality in this episode. So I also think we should add like a confirmation modal. I think maybe that is something we want to do right away here. So we need to make sure that the user actually wants to delete the task. So currently you just click the delete task and boom, it's already gone, So if you are planning to release this as a product, then of course you want to have these kind of precautions, because users would be very frustrated if they were to remove a task. Now, there's not a lot, stored in these tasks. Oh yeah, I guess we can actually add like a description. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, of course you probably want to have like a description for each task. So I am not like a big to-do application user myself, so it's not that clear to me. But I think it's good that we have some way for us to add a description to our task and maybe have like subtasks or something. Like I'm just brainstorming ideas for what I think would be cool in my application, but it's completely up to you what you want, what kind of functionalities you want to have in your application. Well, I think we should add this confirmation modal real quick. It should be really painless here. So let's create a new component here. We have this modal, nice modal directory that we can put our modals in. So let's just do something like delete task modal. I guess we can call it delete task confirmation modal or something, but I think this is fine. So we have our nice modal component, and then we have like a bind visible, I think. So we want to add some nice svelte logic here. We want to have some TypeScript. Oh, there we go. That is not what we wanted. We want to have lang ts here, of course. So let's try to import that again. There we go. No issue. And then we can do export let, well, yeah, export let visible equals false. And then we bind visible there. And then we also want to have like a task here. So we also want to have like some data here. We probably want to have something like, do you want to delete the task? And then insert the name there. So we probably want to show that. So we need to have information about which task we are deleting currently. So let data, we want to do something like task, import the rights task there, and that will be task or null, and it will be default and null. Okay. So then we have our content of this modal. So it will be like, are you sure you want to delete the task? And then we can do like some bold thing, maybe. So data.title, there we go. Let's see if that works. So we need to add it to our app.svelte, of course. So let's go here and add delete task modal. So I'm just putting them here. I think we could like create some other components, maybe something like global modals or modals.svelte or something. So we could make it even, you know, more cleaner here, because if we start adding loads and loads of modals, then it could get kind of messy. But you know, we only have 2 modals currently, so I think it's fine. Then we have this nice modal object that we created in one of the episodes. I think we want to use that, in fact. So let's do something like bind both of them here, and then we want to create, I guess, a new definition here. So we want to do like delete task, and then we have the same information really. So it will be visible and the data for the task. And we can do something like delete task and then specify, you know, the default values. So this should be false and data should be null. Let's see here what it is complaining about. Okay, yeah, no problem. There we go. So now we have that definition there. Let's see if we go to app.svelte. Yeah, so that should be fine. Now we want to actually do something. So we have this delete button. I'm not sure really how this works. So it's probably just calls dispatch delete, and then we have to do item. So this is probably, yeah, this is where the deletion actually happens. And, you know, that's not what we want anymore. So I guess we want to just pass that on to the parent component now. So on delete, we can just pass that on and then the information about the task. But since, you know, we're using the temporary variable here, so we actually just pass in the item that we are currently in the loop, you know, the current item in the loop here. So we actually pass that in here to let the parent component app.svelte in our case know that this is the task that we are deleting. So if we go now here, let's see. So we have to do item. So on delete, I guess. So on delete, on task delete, on task delete. So this is probably where we, so this is where we can create a function on task delete, and then we do task, and that will be task. And then we want to open the modals. So how do we do that? Well, we use modals here. So edit task, delete task. The data here will be, yeah, I guess we can just pass in the task. Yeah, so we're not going to be modifying anything. So I don't think it matters that much that we just pass. Like currently here, up here we clone it, because of course, if we change something here and we are not, you know, happy with that change, then we don't want to confirm that. You know, we don't want that to be saved inside of the object. But here we are not modifying anything, and we're probably just going to be deleting this task anyway, so I don't think it matters that much. So then we can do visibility as well. So modals delete task visible should be true now. There we go. So let's see now what happens. Nothing, of course, because yeah. Oh, that is interesting. What happened here? Of course, yeah. So this is just a event handler, of course. So we need to actually use detail here. So it should be something like details. Just use like an inline type here, and that should be task instead of. That should be detail instead of task. And then we want to do e.detail, I guess. Is that fine? If I click that now, what happens? Why does it not work? So why doesn't it work now? We have to do items. We have on delete. Are we dispatching this properly? So let's see if I can do some nice console logging debug here. If I just were to, well, in here, of course. So on task, there we go. So delete, let's just add some nice debug logging here and reload here. So it actually calls, there's no problem with the event forwarding. It's just something we're not binding this properly. Maybe we're not binding it properly. This is, okay, so it's just add a task here. I forgot to change that. I guess you caught that already. There we go. Now it's visible though by default, or maybe, yeah, so something happened there. I think it's just something with the development server sometimes where it gets different states messed up a bit. So now it seems to work. So whenever we click that button, we see, are you sure you want to delete the task? Are you sure you want to delete? So, that is based on a task that we want to delete. So let's just add some button here to confirm or deny, that deletion here. So we just use our beloved flex here to just justify it to the end. Let's add some button, our nice button component that we created, or a button component of your choice from the component library that you chose, or something you created yourself. A button. You just want to have a button here. So delete. Then we want to have cancel, I guess. So this gets kind of weird because we kind of have two options that we probably want to be read here. So this is all about user experience here. Probably want to have the most critical option the furthest away from where the user wants to click. So you would usually put the save button here. So I guess we can do something like close here or cancel, and then the deletion should be here instead. I'm really bad at this user experience stuff. Now, how are we gonna style these though? Are you sure you want to delete the task? How are we gonna style this? I guess we can actually create like a new color for this, and that should not be red. So the red button should of course be the one that we actually use to delete it. That makes the most sense. So something like a gray button or something just to cancel that. So let's just add something like gray instead here. So we can try gray 500. I'm not really sure if this will actually look good, because when I use gray normally, it kind of looks weird sometimes. So let's just try that out. So type, color should be gray. Yeah, I guess that is actually kind of fine. I think I would prefer to actually be a bit lighter there. So let's see. Yeah, I think that looks nicer. Then we want to have some gap between these two buttons, and that is of course really easy. Then we have cancel and delete, and this should of course be red. So let's make it red. There we go. That looks pretty okay, I think. This looks really weird though, so I think we want to center that text there. So let's see if that looks better. Yeah, it doesn't really look that much better. This is a question mark as well. Maybe these buttons should not be justified to the end here. Maybe we want to actually justify them center. Let's just see how that looks. Yeah, I'm not sure really. This is kind of tough now. How do we want this UI? I think the modal here is kind of large for this scenario, so I guess we need to change how we are doing this. Yeah, so we have only like one size option here, so I don't like that. So we need to do something about this where we actually can change the size of the modal. So how are we gonna do this though? We currently have like width 80%, so this is probably just the 80% of the screen width now, but we kind of want to have variable sizes. So maybe we can do something like Flow by Svelte, like we discovered that they have different sizes like XL, MD, and medium, large, small, whatever. Maybe we can do something like that, or we can just specify it. Maybe it's just smarter to let the user here specify. So if I just remove this with 80, what would happen? You see, okay, so it becomes with 100%. Well, what happens, if I were to have like width 1/6, so it kind of works. If I just were to add like a class here, I think that could actually work. So I don't think we can actually create a class prop. I'm not sure. Let's see if that works. So if I just do something like class and then an empty string here, expected. Yeah, that did not work because there's actually class inside of TypeScript, I assume. So that is kind of a bummer. So custom class, I guess we can do something like custom class instead, and then we put the custom class here with some Svelte syntax, so custom class. And let's see if we can do something now. So now we actually have control over, we can actually add like a custom class to the modal, which I think is a good thing to have in your components. If you want to have some special fine-grained control over how they look, especially since we are using Tailwind, we already can do a lot with just classes here. So if I use the word to do something like with 3/4, yeah, so that actually works nice. Okay, so this is, you know, this is just fractions here. So you can actually specify fractions. So in this case, this is 40% if my math works out. So this already looks a lot better when we don't have such a large modal. So where we can actually do justify end here. Yeah, so I think this actually looks kind of good. But if we were to do a responsive layout, then of course this is a catastrophe. So I think very soon we will actually be looking at creating a responsive layout, because of course that is super important since a lot of us are actually using these to-do apps on our phones. So that's something we're going to be looking at very soon in this series. But for now, I think we're just going to keep it PC since we are developing on a PC, of course. But now let's actually add some functionality. I think this looks decent enough. I guess we can make it a bit larger here. So text XL perhaps. That was a bummer. Now we're wrapping here. So if we make it 50%, how does that look? Yeah, I think that looks much better. So if I have like a longer task name, yeah, I think that is fine. So now we actually want to call something. So on click, I guess we want to do something like, yeah, so let's just do something like on cancel. Well, I guess we can just do something like close instead, and then we do visible false, and then we can do something like delete. Well, on delete rather. So on delete, then we created event dispatcher here, of course, so that we can dispatch something. So const dispatch, create event dispatcher. And then we do dispatch delete so that the parent component knows about it. And then we can do something like on, then we can do close here, and then we can do on delete over here. So there we go, on delete. Now we can cancel that and it closes the modal. Isn't that amazing? And so now we actually want to do something with this delete here. So in app.svelte we have this delete task modal, so we need to bind like an event handler here. So on delete, yeah, so I think we just do something like on task delete. Well, okay, so if I just use rename symbol, I think maybe I can do something. Nope. Okay, so just do something like start task deletion or something, something that makes sense to whoever is reading the code. So in our case, we have to do items. We want to do start task deletion. So this just indicates that we are not actually deleting it right away. We're just opening the modal to delete it, or, you know, cancel that operation. So, you know, kind of have some kind of clear naming of what it's doing. And then we have on delete. So this is when it's actually deleted. So here we can do something like on task delete, and then we should actually have access to that from the modals. So I'm not really sure how good practice this is, though. It's kind of weird to have all of this global state lying around, but, you know, since we have access to it, why not, I guess. So on delete, we can do something like on task delete. So let's see if that works when I click this on delete button here. Yeah, so we can see that now we have access to the task that we actually confirmed the deletion of. So now we can just do this task deletion logic, which we actually had this previously in to-do items.svelte, but now we're going to be doing it in app.svelte now because we have this event handler here. So just like if we remember from like one of the first episodes, we're just using filter here to filter out and just have the remaining tasks which are not that task. So let's just do something items. So I'm just using the first letter of the array here. So I, and then we do I dot ID isn't. So we only want to retain the items that don't have the ID of the task that we are deleting. So modals delete task data, data.id. So I think that should work. Let's see if that works. Delete that. That was bad. So we need to close the modal, of course, when we delete something as well. So let's just close the modal since we have that nice function there already. So we also noticed when I reloaded there that we're not persisting this change, which might be nice, you know, knowing that you can't delete any tasks, or maybe you could. I'm not sure how that worked. Okay, so I guess something caused it to save something. So something just caused that to save it. I'm not sure what that was about, but we also want to call, of course, save to local storage here when we are actually deleting something, so that we can persist that deletion here. So if I delete this now and reload, we can see that it works. So now we have some confirmation here. Let's just try adding some tasks here. I really have buy some cookies here. So I don't want to delete them, so I click that delete button. Oh no, I don't want to delete this task. I press cancel. Oh, I changed my mind. I actually want to delete them, and I click that again, and I click delete, and I reload. So it seems to be working. Amazing. So now we have that nice confirmation feature implemented. So now let's actually add a task description. I think we're really missing that. So if you want to write something more about what you are doing in this task, then of course that could be kind of nice. So I think in the future we're actually gonna be doing something like rich text here, so that you can actually have like a bold or italic, mark it up however you want. But for now we're just gonna have some plain old boring text, some just a string with some text about it. If you want, it will probably be optional. So let's just add that real quick. I guess we can just have like a text area. So also notice here that this is now kind of breaking. So we actually have full control over this width here. So we need to make sure that we do something nice with that. So let's just use custom class here and specify a width. So how much? Maybe 75% is fine. Yeah, I think that looks okay. So now we actually want to have like a text area here. So let's try that out. Text area. And that looks really bad. It has no border, of course. So we need to add some nice styling to that. So I think these things like rounded for inputs here, I think we want to create like global CSS for it. So this is one of these scenarios where we probably want to have like global CSS, since we don't want to write this class on every single input element. So you could also create like an input component. So it really depends how you want to do things. I think I actually want to use apply here to create a custom class. Let's try that out real quick. So, oh yeah, I guess we're already doing that here. So this was just something old, I assume. So if I just were to remove this class here, what happens? So it looks the same, except for that it's no longer like a block element, I guess. So W full and then empty4. So, okay. So there we go. That is probably the same again. So yeah. Now we want to have the text area. Let's see if we can do that by just adding that to the list here and see if that looks good. Yeah, so it actually looks kind of good. Isn't that amazing? So this is what I mean, if we have some global CSS, we don't have to, fiddle around with creating custom components if we don't have some logic tied to it. So I think it's kind of unnecessary to just create loads and loads of components if you are just, using CSS on them. But if there is logic to them, then of course it definitely makes sense to create a component for it, of course. So let's just make it sure it's the full width here and add some margin as well. So empty4 and add some W full here as well. So here we can specify the task description. So let's just add a placeholder as well. So description, or like write a description here. There we go. That looks okay. And I guess we want to have like a default height for this. So I think it should be like min height. I actually don't think you can have min heights with Tailwind CSS. So this is kind of a bummer. One of the things I actually think is a kind of a shame. So these min heights and max heights, I think they actually don't have these height values. So I think you can do like min height full perhaps or something. Yeah, maybe not at all. Let's just search it up here. So min height. Let's see if there's actually something I can do here. So yeah, as you can see, there's not actually, actual values for this. There's only like min height full, min height 0. We can't actually set some kind of arbitrary value here. So that is kind of a shame, I think. I guess we can do this with some traditional CSS if we don't want to extend it. So we could also create something like an extension here if we wanted to create like some min height, I guess. But let's just use some normal, plain old boring CSS for that. So text area, I guess we can do something like, well, for this case, we don't want that to be global, of course. We want that to be tied to this component, so we just use our beloved isolated CSS here. So let's just do something like text area, and then we do min height 10 pixels. No, not 10 pixels. We want to have like 2 rem. That did not seem to work at all whatsoever. It did not work. Let's see here. 5 rem. There we go. So it was kind of already the most minimum height ever. So if I just do something like min height 7, then we can see that it's actually working. So let's see if I add some text here, it will actually, okay, so just So it just adds like a scroll bar, but I think that looks fine as well. So I kind of anticipated it actually, using more height here, but so it kind of looks good to have a scroll bar as well. So let's just bind this now so that we can actually have a value for it. So bind this value here to data.description. We don't actually have a property for this yet, so let's create that as well. So let's just do description here, which should be a string, of course. We're not doing anything fancy just yet with it. Let's see if that works. I think that should work, in fact. So if I just reload now, yeah, there we go. Isn't that amazing, Isn't this the most modern, the most straightforward way to build applications? Just bind this value, have this text area, boom, slap a two-way data binding on it, and it just works, I'm still getting shocked by how amazing Svelte is when it works like this. It's just so simple, so easy to work with. I can't really express my full gratitude for Svelte. So now we have this nice description functionality. I think we should also add like a category real quick. So I think we're actually gonna save this separation of multiple lists into a next episode. I'm not really sure, so we could go on longer. I think we can actually add this drag and drop in this episode as well, because I think that is kind of a neat feature that we want to have, but we also have ability to create like categories. So how are we gonna add categories? I think it's important to think about how we want to show these categories on the items themselves. So I guess we can just add like tags instead, where we can just add them like under this title or something. I'm not sure, so I'm just winging it here. I'm just thinking straight out how we can design this without actually having much thought behind it. So let's just try that out, I guess. What do we currently have? We have to do item actions here, so we actually have the display flex here. So this is kind of problematic, so we kind of need to create a new class here. So this was our previous markup here, but we kind of need to change this up now that we have. Now we're gonna add something under it. We can't add this like inside of the flex container, because then of course it will be part of the flex items, and then it will, we have like some weird space between there. So what I mean is that we want to have something under the whole like horizontal line with the title and the icons and everything. So let's just transform this to some Tailwind CSS, I guess. So this should just be div class flex, and then should have some padding. I'm not sure what the real value should, P4 maybe. Then border, of course, yeah. So we actually added this nice border one, so now we can actually use that. Nice. So then border should be black. Then space. So this should be justify between. I think that is the name for it. Let's see if that works. If I remove the style now, yeah, there we go. Then we want it to be rounded as well. So this is, yeah, okay, maybe not. I actually overextended here. We want to have these things on the like whole big container. There we go. Now that looks kind of nice. We actually, now what I mean here is that now I can add stuff underneath it here, and it doesn't break like this nice flex layout that we have going here. So actually I can actually add stuff underneath it here without breaking anything. So I guess here we can like try adding some tags. I'm not sure if this will look good putting it underneath, but let's try it out. So one thing that I'm thinking about here is that it's gonna look weird if there are some tasks which have tags and some which don't. So it will have like weird like high height mismatch, but I'm not sure. Maybe we can just add some min height, so make sure that they all have the same height in the end. I'm not sure. So if I just, like the nice thing with Tailwind CSS is I don't have to be super serious. I can just rapidly like prototype something here. So I can just write a tag here and then, extract it into its own component later. So if I just do something like rounded P2, if I do BG red 700 text white, let's just write something in here. So this is gonna be my tag. Okay, that did not look good at all. So P2 was way too much. Let's see here. Yeah, so this is probably fine padding. I'm not sure why it has so much padding here. So I guess it's just the font size that makes it so big. So maybe we can do something to that. If I just do text SM, yeah, so this is text small. So this is kind of what I want rather than that large text there. So PX2, PI2, if I try that now, how does that? It's still way too much, I think. So maybe we want to have it even smaller, but we also don't want it to be like full width here. So, the default here is for it to be block, which, uses kind of the whole width. But if I make it inline block, that should work. So there we go. this is kind of our tag now. Does that look good? I'm not really sure. So another thing we could do is like put it next to the task name, but that would be kind of weird. And when it comes to creating like a responsive layout, that would also be kind of hard. So I think I'm just gonna put it underneath the task title for now, but maybe we can change this design later, of course. Let's add something like health. This will be my nice exercise task. And then we have this nice health tag underneath here. This is kind of the idea that I had, that we can have like multiple tags, so that we can kind of easily see or sort them based on tagging. So that is kind of a nice thing that would be nice to have. So if I just create a nice flex layout here as well, and just copy this component here, change this up a bit, make it blue, add some gap, there we have that, maybe gap 1 instead, and then we put something else, travel maybe. So this is kind of the idea that I have for tagging. So I think this looks okay, maybe. There's something that puts me off a bit with this design, but I think it's probably fine if I add some more margin to it. Does that look better? Yeah, it looks fine, I think. So this is probably okay for now. Let's just work on the functionality. The design can come later, like I said. Let's actually create a component for this. So I think I actually want to create like a nice directory for this, since we are gonna have like multiple things here. Maybe we want to do that for the rest here, but they are all kind of tied more to the item itself. But this is more, something. It's hard to draw the line, but I just felt the urge here. My gut feeling was to create a new directory, so that's what I'm gonna do simply. So I just create like a tag here. This will be for the tag, so I will do something like tag.svelte. This will be my tag component, and then we can copy this nice thing we got here. And then this will be tags. So we're gonna have like a container around these tags. So let's just do something like that, and we can show a tag inside of this, I guess. So if I just do 2 tags here, they will be exactly the same tag, but you just get a good idea of what's going on here. So let's just add show tags here. There we go. So that is what I kind of wanted. So now we have some nice components for this. We can actually start doing something with this. So I guess that we want to have like the ability for users to customize the color of their tags. So let's just add that early on, I guess. So we want to have like a hex color. So now it's also a good idea to think about how we want to structure this data as an object. So let's actually create a new model for this. So this will be our tag model here. So interface tag, this will be IDs. We also want to have IDs, so we can like delete them and stuff like that. I think that is kind of nice. So we have ID, and we can have a name for it, and then we can have a color, and this will be a hex color, I think. If you don't know about hex colors, it's just like this kind of format. I'm sure you've seen it. Let's just do that there, and then we can actually create some nice TypeScript for that. So lang ts here, if I were to do something like export let data, and then we'll have tag here. This will be tag or null. Okay, now we have a problem because it's the same name as the component. Well, that is a shame. Let's just call it tag data now to get around that issue there. So tag data. There we go. And then we can show the data here. So we can do data.name here. Now it's going to break, of course, because we don't have any data available. So actually, I think we want to remove this or null here, because we need to make sure to whoever uses this component that we're not actually passing in a null here, because we are not handling that properly. Because currently we just render the data.name, but as we can see, there is errors thrown. So we need to be clear here to whoever is using this component that you should not pass in a null here. So we actually want this to be tag data. I think there's no reason for it to be null, so that's something to think about. So here we actually just want it to be tag data, and then we have data.name there. So I just want to change it. I want to show you guys what I'm thinking about this. So we can do something like style here. So we just, I guess, use the Svelte syntax here. So if I do something like color, and then, so if I specify that with the hex color, this is kind of important now, because this could actually like introduce a vulnerability if we are not being careful. We're actually passing in something that potentially could be changed by the user. So if they change this color in like if we just have a server for this so they can actually store it somewhere, then maybe they could like pass in some weird styling, some weird CSS that could actually do something. So there are things to think about when it comes to security when we're doing this, that we're not rendering things that the user has access of modifying. So maybe we want to parse this hex, but for now we're just gonna leave this now. So I guess we can create a function for it just to add like a to-do for it later. So get color, this should be, if I just pass in data here, that should be fine. Well, rather it should be color. So let's just do return. This looks really strange right now, but we will change it later. I'm just doing this so we can just add a to-do for it. So get color here should be data dot color, I guess. And then we can do something like to do here. So parse or make sure that user cannot provide non-hex color. So we don't want them to pass in anything that is not following the format for a hex color. So that is kind of what I mean. Yeah. So now that should work if we just pass in some data here. So we can just pass in inline for now, so we can see if it works or not. So we can just do ID, some dummy data here. If I just do ID, and that will be 1, and then we do name, health, and then we can do color, and that should be like red color. And that did not seem to work for some reason. Let's see what happens here. So yeah, actually it should not be color, of course. It should actually be background color. The color is just for the text color. So background color, and that did not work either. Let's see what that is about. So that did not work at all. Why is that? I guess we provided something invalid here. Yeah. So what is this? What is the problem here? Background color. Well, I guess there's something wrong with our styling here, causing it to not add that properly. Let's see here. If I just were to do background color red, would that work? Yeah, so there's something weird going on here. Yeah, so okay. Am I passing in data.color? Get color. What is wrong here? Why is it not working? When I return red here, it no longer works. Oh yeah, so I have like a dollar sign here. What am I doing? I think I'm just got some templating idea here that this is a template, but you know, we are just dealing with normal Svelte syntax here, so use curly braces there for that. So now we can probably use color here, see if that works. It seems to work. So if I go back to tags here, oh, I broke something. There we go. Now if I go back here, I can change that color. There we go. Now I can actually change the color based on like a hex value. Isn't that amazing? So I think that is a good starting point for our nice new tag system. I don't want to drag out this episode for too long. So like I said, I think it's good to keep these videos a bit shorter rather than creating like new 1-hour video. So as a developer, it's sometimes hard to estimate how long things will take. I think I promised that I would do drag and drop, so I'm sorry. I don't think it's good that we do this in this video. So I think it's better that we dedicate a video to drag and drop, because there's some things to consider with that, and I think it would kind of be rushed to do it in this episode, since I don't want to drag this episode out for too long. So we're not doing drag and drop. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We got some nice functionality implemented. We got our nice description. We fixed a bit with our confirmation modal as well. So not super much functionality implemented. Some days are slower than others, but in the next episode we're going to be looking a bit at some more tags so that we can implement this tags system so that I can actually add a tag. And then, like I promised, we'll also do drag and drop functionality, but there's actually a really easy to use library, so it shouldn't take that long to go through. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and feel free to comment if you have any questions or if you caught me doing something stupid, and also feel free to subscribe if you want to be part of this community that I'm trying to build here. So I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace out.